You know, I sat down, and I couldn't help but ask myself, have we been completely swerved here? For weeks now, all of the conversation around the New York Knicks was centered on one thing: adding a guard. Not just any guard, but a veteran ball handler, someone with the ability to organize this team's offense, steady the pace, and provide leadership in the backcourt. That's been the storyline we've been following since July. And now, all of a sudden, new reports are surfacing suggesting the Knicks are shifting their focus entirely, turning away from guards and instead exploring the market for a power forward or center. That's a pretty big swing, and it caught me off guard. We've been told repeatedly this team wanted someone to handle the ball, create offense, and take some pressure off Jalen Brunson. And now, the reports are telling us the Knicks are looking at a EuroLeague big man, Roman Sorkin, a name that most NBA fans probably haven't heard of. Let me explain why this is raising eyebrows. First, credit where credit is due. Shout out to Ian Begley from SNY, who's been all over this story. According to him, Sorkin has drawn interest from multiple NBA teams, including the Knicks, the Heat, and the Trail Blazers, after a strong showing with the Israeli national team and Maccabi Tel Aviv. He's had games where he's absolutely gone off, dropping 31 points, grabbing rebounds, even knocking down multiple threes. That kind of versatility always stands out. But when I dug deeper into his numbers, here's where I get skeptical. On the surface, his last EuroLeague season looks strong. Nearly 16 points per game, over 6 rebounds, efficient shooting from the field, and the ability to stretch the floor with some three-point range. That's progress compared to his career averages, which were far less impressive, around 7 points and 3 boards a game. Yes, he's taken a leap, but is that leap big enough to translate to the NBA? That's the real question. Because let's be honest, one hot year in Europe doesn't guarantee success in the NBA. We've seen players dominate overseas but struggle when they get to this level. The physicality, the pace, the defensive schemes, it's all different here. And I'm just not convinced Sorkin would walk into the Knicks rotation and immediately make an impact. In fact, I think if New York were to sign him right now, he'd spend most of his rookie season buried on the bench. And here's what frustrates me the most. If this was the direction the Knicks wanted to take, why are they only making this pivot now, in September? Why wasn't this addressed in July or August, when the market was full of capable big men? A player like Chris Boucher was available weeks ago before Boston scooped him up. That would have made sense, proven NBA production, size, and versatility. But now, the market is thin. Most of the quality options are already gone. Even worse, this move sends mixed signals. For months, the Knicks have been telling everyone, through multiple reports, that they were focused on a veteran guard. Names like Ben Simmons, Landry Shamet, and Malcolm Brogdon were thrown around as possibilities. Now, suddenly, the focus is size over ball handling. That's not just a change in strategy. It feels like a lack of direction. And listen, I get it. Maybe they think they need more front court depth. But if that's the case, then I would honestly prefer sticking with Gerson Yabusele as a backup big and giving Ariel Huckporty more minutes off the bench than scrambling for a EuroLeague project in September. If the goal is shooting and chemistry, you can go with Landry Shamet. If the goal is ball handling, you can still look at Brogdon. Those options make far more sense to me than chasing a last-minute big man who might not even contribute in year one. That's where I'm at with this. To me, this isn't just about Roman Sorkin, it's about the Knicks' overall strategy. It feels reactionary, it feels late, and it raises questions about whether this front office is locked in on a clear plan, or if they're just reacting to whatever options are left on the board. Here's where things get even more interesting. Because if the Knicks are seriously considering using their final roster spot on a European big man with no NBA experience, then I have to stop and ask, what's the actual plan here? This roster isn't in rebuild mode. It isn't in development mode. This is a team built to win right now, today, in this moment. And if you're truly a contender, you don't burn your last roster spot on a 29-year-old project who may or may not ever translate his game to the NBA. Think about it. This team has one goal: compete for a championship. Every roster decision needs to be viewed through that lens. Does this move help you in April, May, and June? Does it raise your ceiling against teams like Boston, Milwaukee, or Denver? Signing Roman Sorkin as your backup center doesn't answer yes to any of those questions. That's not a win-now move. That's not how championship teams operate. And frankly, that's how you waste an opportunity to strengthen this roster before training camp opens. So let's lay it out clearly. Would you rather add a veteran player, someone who knows the NBA game, who can step in tomorrow and contribute in meaningful minutes behind Jalen Brunson? Or would you rather gamble on someone with no NBA track record, who's older, who's going to need development time, and who may not even crack Tom Thibodeau's rotation? For me, that's not even a decision. It's obvious. You take the veteran every single time. And here's the thing. The Knicks still have options at guard. If the concern is facilitating offense when Brunson is off the floor, there's Malcolm Brogdon, a steady hand, someone who can manage pace, keep turnovers low, and create shots for others. If the need is more perimeter shooting and spacing, you can still look at Landry Shamet. Both of those guys are battle-tested, they understand the league, and they could contribute immediately. That's exactly the type of move this front office should be making. Now, zooming out, let's talk about expectation. Because the Knicks aren't sneaking up on anyone this season, the latest FanDuel projections, shout out to them, the official sponsor providing these numbers, have New York's win total set at 53.5. That's no small thing. Vegas is essentially saying this team is going to be one of the best in the Eastern Conference. The odds reflect belief, but also caution. -104 on the over, -118 on the under. It shows the line is razor thin. The Knicks have to prove they can hit that level, but the expectation is absolutely there. And when expectations are that high, you can't afford to miss on roster construction. Not even on the 14th man. Every decision matters, because in a conference this competitive, a single roster spot can swing depth, chemistry, or late-season matchups. That's why I don't see any logic in wasting it on a player who isn't ready for the NBA stage. Let's also not forget that entire saga we went through just a few weeks back. For what felt like an eternity, the narrative was being pushed that this team had locked in on one particular player as their main target, a player who had the resume, the accolades, and the name recognition to at least get people talking. On paper, it looked like a bold swing, someone who, in theory, could step into the role of a secondary playmaker, alleviate pressure from the primary ball handler, and bring another layer of versatility to the offense. For a while, the buzz around that idea grew so loud, it almost felt inevitable. But if you were paying close attention, if you were really watching the direction of this franchise, you could sense that something was off. Deep down, most of us knew it didn't feel right. It didn't line up with the identity this team has built. It didn't align with the culture that's been carefully crafted. And more importantly, it didn't truly address the long-term needs of this roster. It was one of those situations where the hype was louder than the logic. Eventually, reality caught up, and thankfully the organization recognized it too. They pulled back, they recalibrated, and they avoided what could have been a costly mistake. Because let's be clear, chasing that option wasn't just a questionable move, it was a distraction. It was a detour away from the real work that needs to be done. And once that chapter closed, it became obvious where the focus had to shift to the actual areas of need: ball handling depth, reliable shooting, stability behind the starting point guard. These are the pillars that will determine how far this team goes. And that's why this sudden wave of noise around a European big feels curious. The timing, the direction, the way it suddenly popped up, it all raises questions. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly the point. Maybe this isn't the plan at all. Maybe this is classic front office strategy. Push one narrative into the spotlight while working quietly in the shadows on the real target. Create just enough smoke to keep the market guessing, to keep other teams distracted, to make sure nobody sees the true move coming until it's already done. If that's the case, I respect it. That's how the smartest organizations operate. You protect your intentions, you shield your negotiations, and you keep leverage on your side. Because in this league, perception is power. And if you let the wrong details leak, if you let other teams know exactly who you're after, suddenly the price goes up, the leverage disappears, and the deal you wanted becomes that much harder to close. So if this chatter is nothing more than a smokescreen, then it's a brilliant one. It means the front office isn't just reacting to the market, they're shaping it. And if history has shown us anything, it's that the best teams don't always reveal their hand until the very last moment. But until we know for sure, Knicks fans are left to speculate. And here's what I'll say. Leon Rose has earned some trust. He's built this roster methodically, and he's positioned the team to contend. So if there's anyone I'm willing to believe in when it comes to making the right move at the right time, it's him. Still, I'll be watching closely, because the next move has to matter. It has to push this team closer to contention, not take a step backward. So let me put the question out there. If the choice is between a EuroLeague project or a proven NBA veteran, which direction would you take? For me, it's easy. You go with the vet, you make the smart move, and you keep the Knicks firmly on track to hit that 53-plus win benchmark and make noise in the playoffs. When I tuned into NBA Today, the conversation around the Knicks really caught my attention because it laid out the kind of crossroads this franchise is standing at right now. The panel spent a good chunk of time discussing how New York has once again found itself tangled in the free agency shuffle, and it became clear that one of their main targets is slipping away. That update hit like a shock at first, but when you really listen to the reasoning behind it, you start to realize it's not a devastating blow at all. In fact, it might actually put the Knicks in a better spot moving forward, forcing them to lock in on what truly matters this offseason. Now, what made the segment so interesting wasn't just the fact that the Knicks lost out on a name they had circled, it was how it tied into the bigger picture of what Leon Rose and this front office are trying to build. There's been so much noise around this team, so many rumors flying, whether it's about who they're chasing or who they might have backed away from. And for weeks, a lot of that noise centered around one particular saga. The Ben Simmons chatter was everywhere. Did he actually get an offer from New York? Was there real interest? One side claimed there was, the other side denied it, and the truth seemed to shift depending on who you listened to. It was messy, and honestly, it distracted from the bigger priorities. What NBA Today made clear is that this situation probably never had much substance. The Knicks knew deep down that Simmons wasn't the solution, and walking away from that drama was the right move. Instead, the conversation shifted toward other targets, and one name that stood out was Malcolm Brogdon. Now, here's a guy who fits the mold of what the Knicks are looking for. A steady veteran, a guard who can handle the ball, defend, and hit shots. His resume speaks for itself. Rookie of the Year, experience with winning teams, someone who has shown he can be a factor on a playoff roster. But as the panel pointed out, The big question has always been health. Brogdon has battled injuries throughout his career, and that's something any front office has to weigh carefully. His numbers from last season weren't bad at all. Around 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, but the shooting dipped, and the burden of playing on a struggling team definitely impacted his performance. The important part of that discussion, though, was context. NBA Today highlighted that while Brogdon is a talented player, the Knicks aren't the only team eyeing him. There are several other franchises in need of backcourt help. Contenders, playoff hopefuls, teams that could easily outbid or outmaneuver New York if it comes down to it. That's where the urgency comes in. Training camp is right around the corner, and teams are already circling, looking at the best veteran options left on the market. If the Knicks drag their feet, they risk losing him too, just like they did with other names earlier in the summer. And here's where my takeaway lines up with what NBA Today was hammering home. This isn't about missing out on one guy or another. This is about clarity. The Knicks can't afford to get lost chasing distractions or going after players who don't fit the identity they're trying to build. Losing out on someone like Brogdon isn't the end of the world. It's a reminder that the front office has to stay locked in on its real priority, adding reliable ball handling, finding shooters who can space the floor, and making sure there's enough depth behind Jalen Brunson so this team doesn't crumble when he's off the court. That's the core mission. So while fans might be disappointed at first hearing that another free agent is probably off the board, I think the message from NBA Today was pretty clear. This is actually the kind of push the Knicks needed. Sometimes losing out forces you to stop settling for good enough and to actually go find the right piece. That's why I don't see this update as a setback at all. If anything, it's pointing the Knicks toward a smarter, more focused path for the rest of this offseason. When I kept watching NBA Today, the conversation naturally shifted toward where Malcolm Brogdon could realistically land, and honestly, it was fascinating. The panelists made the case that if you forced them to put money down right now, the smart bet would be on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you know what? I can see the logic there. It makes sense. Minnesota's in need of more veteran playmaking. Mike Conley is getting up there in age, and adding someone like Brogdon, who can shoot, facilitate, and defend at a decent level, would feel like a natural move for them. It's the kind of transaction that just screams Timberwolves, a franchise looking to strengthen their backcourt with reliable depth for another playoff push. Golden State came up in the conversation as well, but most people on the panel agreed that the Warriors are probably going to go in a different direction. They've been tied to a lot of names, but one storyline that popped up was Seth Curry possibly joining his brother in San Francisco. Now, that's more of a sentimental angle than a basketball one. But let's be honest, the NBA has a way of producing those kinds of moments. Seth has spent time in Charlotte, and at this stage of his career, you wouldn't be shocked to see him look for one last run with a contending team, maybe even alongside Steph. It's not out of the question, though the panel didn't lean heavily toward it. But circling back to Brogdon, the main takeaway from the discussion was this. Even though he's a talented guard and has had his moments in the postseason, including stretches where he put up over 20 points per game in a playoff series, the Knicks just don't feel like the most logical destination anymore. His resume is solid, his shooting numbers in the playoffs have been respectable at 38% from deep, and he has experience with teams that made deep runs. Still, when you match that profile against what New York actually needs, it becomes harder to picture him as the solution. Yes, he'd be a good veteran present, but betting on the Knicks to land him right now feels like a stretch. And that's when the conversation turned toward what the Knicks do need. When you look at their roster, when you really study the rotation, the glaring weakness isn't necessarily another ball-handling guard. It's depth on the wing. They're thinner there than people realize. Of course, OG Anunoby can slide in, Josh Hart has the versatility to play multiple spots, and even Precious Achiuwa can soak up some minutes depending on the matchup. But you can see the gap. You can see that adding another true wing would give this team far more balance than bringing in another guard. And speaking of guards, this is where Jordan Clarkson's name really came into the spotlight. NBA Today highlighted how fascinating his fit in New York could be, especially since he's spent the majority of his career as more of a shooting guard than a pure point guard. The Lakers shifted him away from being a lead playmaker years ago, and since then, he's carved out a reputation as an explosive scorer off the ball. But now, with this Knicks roster, the conversation has shifted. Could Clarkson actually slide back into more of a lead guard role? Could he be the one who helps shoulder the offensive load when Brunson sits? That's where Clarkson himself enters the story. He recently spoke about how quickly his decision to join the Knicks came together, and the way he described it was honestly pretty remarkable. According to him, the process took all of 2 minutes. 2 minutes. He said that being in New York, feeling the energy in the arena, knowing how passionate the fans are, that's what drew him in. He was clear about it. When you play well, they love you, and when you don't, they'll let you know. That accountability, that intensity, was something he actually embraced. He even shared the behind-the-scenes moment with his agent. Clarkson was watching Carlos Alcaraz at Wimbledon, sitting alongside Rich Paul, when the call came through. "Where do you want to go?" his agent asked. Clarkson didn't hesitate. His answer was immediate. "I want to go to New York." Within minutes, the message was relayed, the interest was confirmed, and just like that, Clarkson was a Knick. That story tells you everything about where his mindset is. He wasn't drawn to comfort. He wasn't looking for an easy landing spot. He wanted the spotlight, the challenge, the opportunity to perform in the biggest basketball market in the world. Statistically, Clarkson backs up that decision with production. Last season, he put up over 16 points per game, chipped in rebounds and assists, and even added a steal a night. He shot just under 41% from the field and 36% from deep, including an impressive 50% from the corners, a sign of just how valuable he can be as a floor spacer in an offense that often relies heavily on Brunson's creation. His ability to create his own shot, break down defenders one-on-one, and still work as a complementary scorer makes him a fascinating addition. NBA Today left the discussion on Clarkson with an important question. Is he ready to take on more responsibility as a lead ball handler when the Knicks need it? Or is he better suited to remain in that sixth man, instant offense type of role? That's the debate. From my perspective, Clarkson has the tools to step into that job, and pairing him with Deuce McBride gives New York flexibility. But what matters most is that Clarkson chose New York, and he did so without hesitation. That speaks volumes about what this team is building and the type of player they're attracting now. When the conversation on NBA Today reached the final stretch, the point guard situation for the Knicks became the centerpiece. And the consensus from the panel was clear. New York actually has more flexibility in the backcourt than people are giving them credit for. Between Deuce McBride, Jalen Brunson, and now Jordan Clarkson, the Knicks don't exactly need to be scrambling for an emergency floor general right away. Clarkson's arrival gives them a legitimate option as a secondary ball handler. And the way the panel framed it, the real challenge for the front office isn't about adding another guard right now, it's about balancing the roster in other areas. The discussion turned toward roster construction, and it was interesting to hear how the analysts framed it. They suggested that the smarter move would be to target a forward or another versatile wing, rather than immediately chasing a veteran backup guard. That kind of addition, they argued, would give the Knicks more size and defensive balance. And then, later in the season, when the buyout market opens up and teams start shuffling their rosters, you could always bring in that break glass in case of emergency type of guard. That's how contenders operate. You address the most pressing weaknesses first, and leave room for adjustments when the playoff picture becomes clearer. But then came the part that really stuck with me, the deep dive into Clarkson's postseason resume. The numbers don't lie. Over his last 3 playoff runs with the Utah Jazz, Clarkson averaged more than 17 points a game while playing nearly 30 minutes a night. His shooting splits, 45% from the field and 35% from 3, combined with a true shooting percentage hovering around 58%, show that he's not just a volume scorer, he's an efficient one when it matters most. The panel emphasized that Clarkson has already proven he can handle the intensity of the playoffs, and in New York, that kind of experience is going to be invaluable. Think about it. Clarkson's not walking into a rebuilding team where every mistake gets magnified because of inexperience. He's walking into a roster that already has a star guard in Brunson, defensive anchors like OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson, and versatile role players like Josh Hart. That's the type of environment where Clarkson can thrive. He doesn't have to be the guy every night. He just has to be the spark, the secondary playmaker, the scorer who can step up when the defense collapses on Brunson. And that's exactly what the Knicks have been missing in big playoff moments. Another layer to all of this, and it was mentioned briefly on the show but deserves attention, is how Leon Rose and the Knicks front office managed to smooth over tensions with Rich Paul. Remember, there was friction there in the past, some unfinished business that could have complicated future negotiations. But the fact that Clarkson, a clutch client, ended up in New York tells you everything you need to know. The relationships were mended, the conversations were handled professionally, and in the end, the Knicks got their guy. That's a sign of growth from this front office. That's how you build credibility around the league. So when NBA Today wrapped up the conversation, the tone was optimistic. Yes, the Knicks lost out on a few names earlier in free agency. Yes, Malcolm Brogdon probably isn't coming to New York. But in Jordan Clarkson, they got a proven scorer, a fearless competitor, and a player who actively chose the challenge of Madison Square Garden. That says a lot about where this organization stands right now. Clarkson could have looked for comfort elsewhere, but instead, he wanted the biggest stage. For me, that's the biggest takeaway from everything we heard on the show. This isn't just about adding another guard. It's about adding someone who embraces pressure, who feeds off the energy of the fans, and who has shown in real playoff battle that he's not afraid of the moment. And that, more than anything, is why Knicks fans should feel excited about this signing. On NBA Today, the conversation took an interesting turn when the panel shifted focus to the Knicks rookie, Mohamed Diawara, and the ongoing uncertainty around his contract situation. It's been a topic that hasn't received a lot of clarity in recent weeks, and naturally, fans are eager to know what's really happening behind the scenes. Now, what stood out to me during the discussion is that this wasn't just about a rookie waiting for a deal. It was about intent, motivation, and the message Diawara himself wanted to send to the organization. The panel highlighted that despite all the questions surrounding his status, Diawara has made his position crystal clear. He's not worried about what type of contract comes his way, whether it's a standard NBA deal, a two-way contract, or time in the G League. His attitude is that he'll embrace whatever role the team asks of him, because what matters most is staying with New York and being part of the Knicks' long-term vision. That is not something you hear every day from a rookie. Most players in his position would be focused on securing the most stable or lucrative path possible, but his response signals a different level of commitment. He doesn't just want to play in the NBA, he wants to play in New York. That's exactly what was emphasized on NBA Today: motivation, dedication, and trust in the organization's plan. Diawara admitted he doesn't have a date yet for when his deal will be finalized, but he expressed full belief that it's coming. And when you hear that, it's easy to connect the dots. Clearly, the Knicks front office has reassured him that he is in their plan, even if the paperwork hasn't been completed. That level of confidence speaks volume. What's fascinating here is how his mindset mirrors what we've seen from the free agents who joined New York this summer. Over and over again, the pattern has been players wanting to be here, players choosing New York because of what they believe this team is building for the future. And Diawara, though just entering the league, is echoing the same mentality. He's not treating this as a stop on his professional journey. He's talking as if this is home, the place where he wants to grow and contribute. For a rookie, that's powerful. And let's remember the bigger picture. When you're a second-round pick, often your path isn't guaranteed. You don't always know where you'll land, or if the team that drafted you even intends to keep you right away. But Diawara's message is that it doesn't matter how difficult the climb may be. He is willing to start wherever the Knicks want him, to grind in the G League if that's what it takes, and to prove that he belongs on the main roster. That's the kind of hunger front offices love to see, and it's exactly what the Knicks are looking for as they shape their roster with both veterans and young talent. NBA Today also emphasized that the most likely path forward for the Knicks involves fully leveraging the roster and contract flexibility they currently hold. This isn't just a minor procedural detail, it's a strategic advantage that allows New York to shape the team in a way that balances immediate competitiveness with long-term growth. Remember, the Knicks still have the ability to add another veteran on a minimum salary deal, in addition to 3 two-way contracts and a second-round rookie exception slot. That combination of options gives the front office room to maneuver and ensures that they can reward performance, secure talent, and protect their future at the same time. According to the discussion on the program, Mohamed Diawara has clearly emerged as the frontrunner for that rookie exception slot. The reasons are multi-layered. For one, his summer league performance sent a message. He's not just a placeholder or a player with potential down the line. He's someone who came in, competed at a high level, and consistently demonstrated the skill, work ethic, and basketball IQ that make a team seriously consider accelerating his development. His commitment to New York's system, coupled with his evident readiness to embrace whatever role is asked of him, sets him apart from other candidates for the rookie exception, such as James Nagy or Kevin McCullough Jr., who may be in the mix for two-way deals but haven't yet shown the same level of immediate impact or buy-in. What the panel highlighted repeatedly is that this isn't just about signing a contract. It's about sending a signal. Diawara isn't waiting passively for the Knicks to decide his fate. He's actively shaping the narrative around him by showing patience, professionalism, and a willingness to take any contract offered in order to remain part of the organization. He is demonstrating the kind of mentality that franchises crave in young players. He's proving that he understands the value of trust, development, and earning his minutes, all while aligning himself with the team's long-term vision. When you put all of these pieces together, the takeaway is unmistakable. Mohamed Diawara is doing more than positioning himself for a contract. He's setting the tone for the type of player he intends to be in the NBA. He's signaling to the Knicks that he's motivated, unselfish, and prepared to contribute wherever and however the team needs him. That kind of attitude, especially from a rookie, is not just encouraging, it's infectious, and it sets a standard for everyone around him. NBA Today made it clear that with that level of commitment and performance, it's only a matter of time before New York officially finalizes his deal. The writing is on the wall. Diawara's future with the Knicks is not a question, it's an inevitability, and the organization is positioned perfectly to make that a reality. On NBA Today, the conversation about Mohamed Diawara didn't stop with his comments on his contract. The panel went even deeper into what his summer league performance meant for his trajectory. And honestly, the discussion turned into one of the more eye-opening evaluations of where this Knicks rookie might fit into the bigger picture. The expectation when he was drafted was clear. He was supposed to be a 2 to 3 year project, someone who would take time to develop before being ready to contribute. But after what we all saw in Las Vegas, that narrative has shifted. He showed flashes of skill and maturity that nobody expected this early, and it forced everyone to reconsider just how long of a project he really is. As it was pointed out on the show, if Summer League is any indication, we're no longer talking about a 2 to 3 year process. This could very well be a 1 to 2 year path if he gets the right development. And that development is almost certainly going to come this season in the G League. That's not a knock, it's a natural part of growth. The G League has become the proving ground for young players, a place where they can get consistent reps, build confidence, and learn the NBA system at a professional pace. For Diawara, spending time there won't mean he's been pushed aside. It will mean the Knicks are investing in him the right way, making sure he's ready when his number is called. And let's be clear about one thing. Diawara's intentions could not be more obvious. He loves New York's long-term vision. He wants to develop with the Knicks, and he wants his career to be tied to this franchise. That type of buy-in from a rookie is rare, and it's why the panel was unanimous in saying New York is going to lock him up with a contract. From their perspective, this isn't just a routine signing. It's the kind of move a championship-level organization makes. Teams that are serious about contending don't just stack stars, they also secure hungry young players who want to be part of the foundation. And Diawara fits that bill. That idea flowed into a bigger point made during the segment. The Knicks right now, are operating like a championship-caliber team. Every move reflects that ambition. Whether it's adding the right veterans, resolving off-court issues to bring in key contributors, or keeping their options open with contract flexibility, they're acting like a team that knows the window is here. And when you behave that way, the odds start to reflect it. NBA Today brought up the latest numbers for the Eastern Conference, and the Knicks are right there, climbing closer to the very top. The Cavaliers may still sit at number 1 with plus 230 odds, but the Knicks have closed the gap considerably, sitting in second place at probably 310. Right behind them, the Orlando Magic are creeping up at 5,500, and then the list drops off quickly with Atlanta, Detroit, and Philadelphia trailing behind. The 76ers, notably, are moving in the wrong direction, slipping from Plotter's 1,400 to Pollard 1,500. That tells you a lot about how the market views the stability of those organizations compared to New York. The Knicks are gaining momentum, not losing it. And this is where the panel tied everything together. Building a championship roster isn't just about your top stars. It's about depth, about role players, about developing the next wave of contributors who will keep the team competitive in the years to come. That's why the rookies matter so much. Names like Ariel Hukporti, Tyler Kolek, Kevin McCullough Jr., and of course, Mohamed Diawara. These are the players who represent the future core pieces that could come off the bench, fill key roles, and eventually step into even bigger responsibilities. Under Mike Brown, the opportunity for those players is real. The panel was adamant that this coaching staff is going to give young guys minutes, give them the chance to fail, to learn, and to grow at the NBA level. That kind of environment can accelerate development in ways that sitting on the bench never could. For Diawara and the rest of the rookie group, this is the season to take advantage of that window. Mistakes will come, but so will growth, and the Knicks are committed to making sure they're learning in the right system. So, the question becomes, where do you stand on this Knicks team? Do you still doubt their ceiling? Or are you starting to recognize that this is a squad built with intention, depth, and a clear plan for both the present and the future? NBA Today made it clear. The excitement around New York isn't just about the big name, it's about the rookies like Mohamed Diawara, who are already proving that they belong and showing the kind of hunger that makes a franchise stronger. All right, so here's the latest from the First Take panel, and things have really taken an unexpected turn in the whole Ben Simmons and New York Knicks free agency saga. Initially, it was all about Ben Simmons potentially retiring, and the reports were coming in fast that he might even be declining a deal from the Knicks. But now, a completely new angle is emerging, and it's giving us insight into not only who the Knicks are targeting, but also who the frontrunner is for that final roster spot. The 57% of viewers who haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, because we're breaking this down daily. And trust me, you don't want to miss any of this as training camp is right around the corner. The word, chaotic. The Knicks were very interested in Simmons initially, and it makes sense why. He's a ball handler, he can run the floor, and he can defend big men. Something incredibly rare in today's NBA, and something the Knicks have historically lacked. This kind of versatility is gold for a team trying to maximize every roster spot. But here's the catch. Simmons is unique, yes, but he comes with a lot of baggage. He has strengths, no doubt, but also glaring weaknesses. And the Knicks were trying to weigh the risk versus reward. Now, the breaking news, as reported by Stefan Bondy, really shook things up. Simmons reportedly was unsure if he even wanted to continue playing. That's right, the very same player who's been an All-Star 3 times is questioning whether to step back onto the court at all. And it gets more complicated. The Celtics were reportedly interested as well, but Simmons declined a one-year contract offer. New York, at this point, is limited to minimum contract offers, especially with training camp approaching. Simmons entered the summer hoping for something above that minimum after splitting last season between the Nets and the Clippers. And if that wasn't enough, his agent, Bernie Lee, recently dropped him as a client. According to league sources, this decision happened after Simmons signaled he wasn't even interested in the Knicks conversation. Now, let's be honest, Simmons is a complicated case. He's made millions over his career, and at this stage, he's thinking carefully about what he's willing to accept. Sitting on the bench in New York, under the scrutiny of a demanding fan base, for a minimum deal? That's not appealing to him. And while some might call that soft, I get it. Playing in New York isn't just about basketball. It's about handling pressure, scrutiny, and expectation at every moment. And if he can't handle it, then he's not the right fit. Plain and simple. The Knicks don't need someone who's reluctant or unprepared to face that stage. But here's where it gets interesting. There are other options out there. Players who can step up, handle the pressure, and actually contribute. Enter Landry Shamet. Yes, Shamet, who some may know also has a budding photography career. And yes, he's taking amazing shots at the US Open. But more importantly, he's still a legitimate NBA option. Shamet isn't signed yet, but the Knicks remain very interested because he's proven he can handle the big moments and deliver on the court. Unlike Simmons, Shamet seems ready, willing, and able to thrive in New York's unique environment. And that brings us back to the main point. The Knicks are in a position where they need to be smart. Simmons has shown repeatedly that he may only be interested if the financial terms meet a certain threshold. Considering his recent playoff performance, where he appeared in only 5 games, averaging 1.4 rebounds, 0.8 points, and 0.8 assists, it's hard to see why any team would offer him more than a veteran minimum. His expectations appear out of step with reality. And for the Knicks, that means mentality and readiness. And in this evolving Knicks situation, it's clear that the team is weighing its options carefully. They need players who are not only capable, but also committed to stepping up in the spotlight of New York City. And right now, the scales may be tipping away from Simmons and toward players like Shamet, who have proven they can handle that pressure. So, picking up from where we left off, the first take discussion really emphasized how the Knicks front office has been navigating this complicated free agency situation. According to Ian Begley's latest report, the Knicks have been in dialogue with Ben Simmons throughout the offseason, and yes, they have expressed interest in him. But, and this is key, they never actually made a formal offer. That's significant, because it signals that the Knicks are being cautious, strategic, and maybe even a little skeptical about what Simmons brings to the table right now. Meanwhile, players like Landry Shamet and Malcolm Brogdon are very much on the radar for that final roster spot, and it's becoming increasingly clear that these two might actually be more realistic and reliable options than Simmons at this stage of his career. Let's break down Simmons' numbers from last season because context is everything. Playing 22 minutes per game between the Nets and the Clippers, he averaged 5 points, 5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists per game. He shot 52% from the field, and his defensive box plus-minus was 1.8. That's solid. It shows he can still contribute defensively, make smart passes, and grab rebounds. But here's the hard truth. He's not the same all-star he once was. That explosiveness, that game-changing ability, clearly, it's diminished. And that's tough to see, but it's reality. Now, contrast that with someone like Landry Shamet. Despite a shaky start to the previous season due to not fully trusting a dislocated shoulder, Shamet ended the year shooting 40% from 3, 46% overall from the field, and an impressive 47% from corner 3s. He averaged 5.7 points and 1.2 rebounds in just 15 minutes per game. He may not have been the flashiest player, but when he got his minutes, his consistency and efficiency really showed. That's exactly the kind of reliability the Knicks need. Someone who can be counted on in both regular season and high-pressure playoff moments. And then there's Malcolm Brogdon, who had a down year shooting only 28% from 3 with the Wizards, well below his career average. But context matters. The Wizards as a team struggled, which naturally increases defensive focus on veterans like Brogdon. On a team like the Knicks, he would face less defensive attention, get more open looks, and likely see his efficiency improve. He's a capable combo guard, can run the floor with Jalen Brunson, and could slot in nicely as a secondary playmaker. That said, the Knicks already have several guards in the 6.2 to 6.3 range, including Brunson, Deuce, Jordan Clarkson, and Tyler Kick. So Brogdon's fit isn't entirely seamless. Nevertheless, other teams, including the Warriors and Timberwolves, have shown interest in him, which makes the Knicks' decision even more strategic. They have to move quickly if they want him. Meanwhile, Shamet has been working out in New York and is fully committed to returning to the Knicks. He deserves it, and he's earned it. In the playoffs last year, he only got meaningful minutes in the final 4 games, but he made every second count. He averaged 6 points, 2 assists, and 1 rebound, played exceptional defense against the Pacers, and had a true shooting percentage of nearly 72%. He shot 50% from the field and an incredible 54% from 3. Shamet proved that when given the opportunity, he can deliver at a high level. And that's the thing. While he might be considered undersized at 6'4", Shamet can comfortably play either wing spot, and in the modern NBA, that size is actually fairly typical. For the Knicks, bringing back Shamet makes perfect sense. He's trustworthy, versatile, and already familiar with the system. It's hard to argue with what he brings to the team. On top of that, the Knicks are still evaluating their roster in terms of depth and defensive coverage. They need guards who can handle big moments and can step in when others go down. And yes, they also want another big man who can guard other big men. Karl Anthony Towns obviously isn't known for his defense, Mitchell Robinson has been injury-prone, and Ariel Hookporty is still developing. There's also James Nagy, who could step into a significant role on a 2-way contract if needed, and Mohamed Diawara, who, while undersized, could also provide minutes at center. Gershon Yabusele can even slide into the 5 occasionally. So, while it's understandable that there's still some interest in Ben Simmons, it's equally clear why the Knicks are considering more reliable, battle-tested options like Landry Shamet and Malcolm Brogdon. It's about fit, commitment, and consistency, qualities that Simmons has struggled to demonstrate lately. And as the First Take panel emphasized, the Knicks need to make these decisions carefully because the wrong move could set them back, while the right move could solidify their roster for a strong upcoming season. And here's the bottom line, the truth that's become absolutely clear in the First Take discussion. Ben Simmons simply doesn't have genuine interest in joining the Knicks, because, honestly, Ben Simmons doesn't really know what he wants to do with his career, or even with his life at this point. That's the reality. And for a team like New York, where the pressure, the spotlight, and the expectations are enormous, you can't afford to have a player who isn't fully committed or mentally invested. That's just not how championship-level teams operate. So, with that being said, the obvious move is to go out and sign Landry Shamet. And it's not just obvious. It's strategic, it's practical, and it's the move that makes the Knicks stronger immediately. Shamet has proven that he can contribute, he's consistent, he knows the team, and he can handle the high-pressure moments that playing in New York demand. This isn't a gamble. This is the smart, logical choice for a Knicks team that wants to compete at a high level next season and beyond. And really, that's the message coming out of the First Take conversation. Sometimes the most obvious decisions are the right one, and sometimes you just have to cut through the drama and the distraction. In this case, that drama has been Ben Simmons, a player whose past performance doesn't match the expectations he's trying to set for himself now. Meanwhile, you have a player in Shamet who's ready, willing, and able to contribute from day one. That's exactly the kind of clarity the Knicks need when making roster decisions in free agency. So I want to know from you guys, the fans, what do you want to see happen? Are you on board with the Knicks bringing back Landry Shamet? Do you think there's still any room for Ben Simmons in this story? Or are the Knicks better off moving forward with players who are fully committed, like Shamet, Malcolm Brogdon, or others in their sight? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. I want to hear what you think. And of course, if you enjoyed this breakdown and you want to stay up to date with all the Knicks news, all the rumors, and all the analysis straight from the perspective of a First Take style discussion, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I really appreciate each and every one of you for watching and engaging. Stay tuned, because the Knicks off-season is far from over, and there's still a lot to break down as we approach training camp. All right, that's it for now. I'm looking forward to seeing how all this plays out, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Go Knicks! Under Mike Brown, the outlook for the Knicks' young players is really starting to shine, and this is exactly the kind of conversation that came up during a heated segment on First Take. Now, we've been hearing a lot about development being a priority for the Knicks, and Mike Brown's reputation for growing young talent is exactly what made him the right hire. According to reports, Ariel Hukporti should be in line for a much bigger role this season, and that's something that you cannot overlook if you're thinking about the depth and future of this Knicks team. And there's also been some updates on Tyler Kelly and how Mike Brown plans to integrate him into the rotation. Today, I want to break down all these reports, piece by piece, and give you the kind of analysis you'd hear on First Take, straight from the lens of a Knicks fan and analyst. First, let's talk about development, because that's really where the Knicks are focusing under Mike Brown. Development isn't just a buzzword. It's about turning homegrown talent into legitimate contributors and eventually stars. Everyone wants to see a player come through the system, grow, and become a cornerstone of the franchise. The Knicks have a handful of young players who have the tools, the potential, and the physicality to be just that, but only if they get the right opportunities and the right coaching. And this is exactly why Mike Brown's arrival is such a huge deal. Under his leadership, these young Knicks are going to get more minutes, more chances, and more guidance than they ever had under the previous regime. Ariel Hukporti, in particular, stands out in this discussion because, frankly, he has the clearest path to consistent minutes. James Edwards over at The Athletic highlighted this, pointing out that among Tyler Kelly, Mohamed Diawara, and Ariel Hukporti, it's Hukporti who is most likely to find a steady role early in the season. Now, let's be honest, Mitchell Robinson is a tremendous talent, but he's had a long history of injuries. Even if he starts the season healthy, there's always the chance he'll be on some sort of load management plan to keep him fresh over the long grind of the NBA season. That's where Hukporti comes in. I see him being the backup center in a rotation that stretches to 10 or 11 players, giving him game reps when Robinson is resting. And here's the key point. This is exactly the kind of opportunity that shows the front office is serious about developing young talent. They didn't hire Mike Brown just to manage stars. They hired him because he's proven he can develop benches and bring out the best in young players. And let me tell you, during First Take, we were all nodding at this point because it's something Knicks fans have been craving for years. Too often in the past, with former coach Tom Thibodeau, starters would play heavy minutes even in blowout wins. You're up 15-18, 20 points with 4 or 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and who's out there on the floor? The starters. Where's the bench? Where are the young players? Nowhere to be found. That was frustrating, and it limited the growth of players who could really step up if given the chance. This season, with Mike Brown at the helm, that's going to change. So let's break it down. You're going to see Kevin McCullough Jr., Tyler Clay, Mohamed Diawara, and yes, Ariel Hukporti get meaningful minutes, especially in what you might call garbage time. But let's not underestimate what that means. These minutes are crucial for development. And when it comes to Hukporti, out of all the young players, he has the best chance to secure a consistent role. Why? Because he's likely going to back up Mitchell Robinson. And with Robinson, as we've said, you never know what could happen. Injuries, load management, illness, back-to-backs, you name it. Every one of those scenarios opens a door for Hukporti. And if we learned anything last season, it's that when given the chance, he maximizes it. Every single time he's stepped on the floor, he's shown growth, poise, and a work ethic that deserves recognition. This isn't just about who he's backing up. It's about the effort, the preparation, and the way he's approached last season and the off-season. He's put in the work. He's shown flashes in Summer League, and now, with Mike Brown trusting him, Hukporti is going to have a real opportunity to shine. And let me tell you, this is exactly the type of narrative First Take loves. Young talent being given the platform to rise, and a coach willing to prioritize development over just playing his stars for every single minute. Hukporti has earned this, and the Knicks are going to benefit from it in a way that fans are going to see all season long. Now, moving on to another young player who has caught our attention, Tyler Kolek. According to James Edwards, who's been breaking down the Knicks roster with his usual precision for The Athletic, Tyler Kolek has a potential pathway to significant minutes this season, but it's far from guaranteed. Let me explain why. Under Mike Brown, player development is obviously a priority, but so is winning. Kolek is a talented rookie, showed flashes during Summer League, and even during his rookie season, had moments as a table setter that could make you believe he's capable of growing into a steady contributor. But here's the complication. He has to navigate a tricky situation with Miles McBride. McBride, at 6'3", could easily assume the backup point guard duties off the bench. But there's a twist. Mike Brown might view him more as a shooting guard. That's right. Even though he's a natural point guard, Brown's rotations and matchups could shift him into a different role entirely. And if that happens, Tyler Kolek suddenly has a window to sneak in and secure more consistent minutes. But it's not guaranteed because even if McBride isn't blocking his path at point guard, the rest of the roster creates natural competition. You're talking about a lineup featuring Jalen Brunson, Jordan Clarkson, OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, Karl Anthony Towns, Ariel Hukporti. Pick your poison. That's a lot of talent for a coach to manage in a rotation. And realistically, Mike Brown is likely going to run a 9 or 10-man rotation most nights. That's where things get complicated for Kolek. Even if he's deserving, even if he's worked his tail off, the opportunities may come sporadically, depending on matchups, load management for starters, and how deep Brown wants his bench to go. If garbage time is the primary window for his minutes, that's not a consistent role. And in a season where the Knicks are still looking to fill that last roster spot, likely another guard on a veteran minimum, the competition for minutes only intensifies. It's not about talent alone, it's about timing, opportunity, and how the rotation shakes out night to night. Now, here's where it gets interesting. During a segment on First Take, the discussion turned to how Mike Brown plays the matchups. And that's a double-edged sword for young guys like Kolek. Matchups are going to dictate playing time heavily. That means sometimes Kolek sits, sometimes Mohamed Diawara sits, and sometimes Ariel Hukporti gets called in because Robinson is resting or dealing with a minor injury. These rotations are fluid, and they're designed to maximize performance while also preserving star players for the grind of the season and, ultimately, the playoffs. And that's where Hukporti shines. He's going to get the primary backup minutes behind Robinson, and that's huge. The Knicks are clearly prioritizing giving him a real role, not just token minutes. This isn't about filling garbage time. This is about preparing Hukporti to step in when it matters most, whether Robinson needs rest, is injured, or during back-to-back stretches. The system Brown is putting in place allows young players like Hukporti to maximize their development while also protecting the team's star assets. That's strategic, that's smart, and it's the kind of forward-thinking approach that's going to set the Knicks apart this season. And let's not forget the bigger picture. As First Take analysts pointed out, the Knicks are being taken seriously in Vegas right now. According to FanDuel's updated odds, the Oklahoma City Thunder are favored, but the Knicks sit just behind at plus 550, with the Cavaliers close at plus 600. What that tells us is that the odds makers believe New York is not just participating, they're a legitimate contender. And if you're a contender, you play rotations intelligently. You manage your stars' minutes, and you strategically insert your young players when the opportunity presents itself. That's exactly what we're seeing with Mike Brown's plans, and it's why Hukporti and even Tyler Kolek are going to be critical pieces this season, even if Kolek's minutes are more limited. So the takeaway here is clear. The Knicks are constructing a system where development and winning go hand in hand. Hukporti is positioned to be a consistent contributor as Robinson's primary backup, and Kolek has a pathway, albeit a more difficult one, depending on McBride's role and matchup considerations, and maximize success over a long NBA season. So, when we look at all the young players on the Knicks roster this season, one name clearly stands out above the rest: Ariel Hukporti. Out of all the talent, he has the best chance to carve out a consistent role. And that's not just speculation. It's rooted in the way Mike Brown is structuring his rotations, balancing player development with game strategy, and being smart about minutes for key players like Mitchell Robinson. Huck Porty is positioned perfectly to step in whenever Robinson needs rest, deals with an injury, or is being managed through a tough stretch of game. And let me tell you, if Huck Porty continues to show the level of maturity, focus, and skill we saw from him last season and throughout Summer League, he's going to make the most of every opportunity, no matter how sporadic it may seem at first. Now, Tyler Kolek also has potential, but as we discussed, his pathway is a bit more complicated. It's not guaranteed, it's not a lock, but he has the tools and the mindset to contribute when called upon. And that's what makes this Knicks roster exciting. You've got young players like Huck Porty and Kolek ready to step up, combined with experienced guys like Jordan Clarkson, Jalen Brunson, and Mitchell Robinson, creating a dynamic balance that can keep the Knicks competitive night in and night out. It's exactly the kind of depth and versatility first-take analysts have been talking about when they break down team rosters and projected rotations. So, I want to hear from you. What do you think about Huck Porty's opportunity? Do you agree he's going to be the consistent young player who sees the floor the most? Are you excited to see what Tyler Kolek can do when he gets his chances? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, because this is the kind of discussion that makes following the Knicks so engaging. And honestly, seeing the growth of these young players under a coach like Mike Brown could be a real turning point for the franchise. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's breakdown. If you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates, insights, or exclusive Knicks content. Until next time, Knicks fans, take care of yourselves, your families, and each other. Keep supporting your team, stay passionate, and let's get ready for what's shaping up to be an incredible season. Peace, love, and all the best to you.